Bear down, Bears fans. Another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the designer, Courtney Cronin up here at Halas yet again. A busy day at Halas today, Courtney. We had the Brian Piccolo Award winners announced today, TJ Edwards and Roman Buze. Congratulations to both of them. We got to hear from both of them in the press conference after, and then we got to hear some very interesting comments from Ryan Poles and from Ian Cunningham. Apparently, things are going to get wild.
Yeah, that's Ryan Poles' summation of what draft night's going to be, particularly the first and second rounds. And I don't know. I mean, a lot of times you don't get much from these pre-draft press conferences, but the ones that have happened across the league, I haven't heard any other general manager categorize the draft and what is going to transpire as wild. Yeah. But it makes sense considering we've been told, we have been led to believe everything's so boring about this draft. Everything's going to go chalk in the top 10. It's, the amount of quarterbacks that are going to be taken in the first round aren't going to be that many. Usually when you think one thing, the opposite happens. So, hey, at least it gives us drama from what's been a relatively quieter draft cycle in the lead up to Thursday.
Yeah, we got to get into all that and more on today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. And this episode is brought to you by Advantage Dealer Group. Find your next Chevy, Toyota, or Acura and drive off in under 60 minutes so don't make your first car payment. Also brought to you by the Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana. Las Vegas style gaming, just 30 minutes from Soldier Field, exit 6, right off of I-80. 94. All right, Courtney, speaking about Hard Rock, it seems like some teams are going to be taking chances in this draft, according to what Ryan Poles said, and there's going to be some trade-ups, possibly some trade-backs. Mm-hmm. Now, it's pre-draft. We know that this is, as I like to call it, lying season. I'll tell you whatever you need to hear to feel like there's something different there going on. But the look, and for me, what solidified that this could be coming is Ian Cunningham with the little chuckle when I think it was Pat that ended up asking him, Ryan Poles said it's going to be wild. What are you guys expecting? Are you expecting trade backs? He's like, listen, it's going to be wild and you're just going to have to watch, but we don't really have a feel on where this thing is going to go yet.
Yeah, and I think it is a little overrated when people talk about, there's a lot of phone calls being made right now. Like there always is. Yeah. I know there hasn't been a trade in the first round, which is unique. Usually there's at least one that happens in the lead up time, like getting into the week of the draft. But the fact that there hasn't been is a little bit eye-opening, but everybody picks up the phone at this time of year. Everybody's gauging interest. If there's a player that you think your best case scenario, if we could trade up for this player, what would it take? Yeah. If this player fell to us or if there was somebody that wasn't available at our spot, kind of where the Bears are at top 10 right now, what would it take to move back? And I think there is this idea out there that it's going to be difficult for teams in the top 10 to move out of the first round, depending on how or to move out of, their top 10 pick, whether it's either later in the first round or picking up a next year's first round pick, moving into the second round, wherever it lands them, that it's going to be difficult to do just because of the quarterbacks. And the Bears are in a precarious spot because there's, at least on paper, 3 teams in the top 10 right now. When you look at Tennessee, the New York Giants, and the New Orleans Saints that need quarterbacks. Now, is there a team that's going to, are we sure all 3 of those teams are going to take a quarterback in their, first round pick? Maybe not the Giants. Maybe they, create some sort of trickle down effect. If they end up taking Abdul Carter and then another quarterback falls beyond them to 4 and then 5 and 6. And then, what happens if the Saints don't take a quarterback? So the Bears are in, I would almost even call it no man's land based on how, does anybody really want that spot? Because if nobody in the top 10 are taking quarterbacks beyond the team that we know, which is going to be the Tennessee Titans, unless something crazy happens, taking Cam Ward, can they move back especially if the offensive tackles that they like are gone? Are they reaching for somebody? If Ashton Jeanty's gone, if Tyler Warren's there, maybe they're not sure if they want to spend a top 10 pick on a tight end, whatever it is, I think they're going to have some trouble moving back because it's all going to be dictated off who goes where among the quarterbacks. And if something pops up that we truly are not anticipating going in.
And when I hear wild and you bring up the quarterback conversation, I do wonder if that's possibly something they're anticipating. My mind instantly, right in the beginning, goes trade back. But then it's like, okay, well, is there the name in the top 10 that we don't expect? The 2 that we know for sure probably end up going somewhere in there unless, he ends up falling is Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. Those are the two that have kind of been solidified in the top, but, maybe Shedeur can have some movement there. But is a Jackson Dart somebody who all of a sudden New Orleans is looking at in a Derek Carr injury-filled season and goes, we can't let a quarterback get past us, and we're not going to have a chance to get him with some of the quarterback-needy teams at the end of this draft here in the first round. We may have to take him right now.
So you're thinking that they would take this would be in the event that Shedeur Sanders actually goes to the Giants.
Actually goes to the Giants, yes.
And then that's what makes it interesting because they have postured that they're not going to, like, whatever the term was that Joe Shane used about get like quarterback happy, like, or whatever, which, makes sense because they do have two veterans that they brought in. They paid for Russell Wilson to be their starter. Right. They're in a 1-year deal that, Jameis Winston came before him. He's the backup. I could see them drafting a quarterback later on, but I also think that if this is a front office and a coaching staff that's in a position that they need to prove themselves to the organization, prove that they deserve to have their jobs beyond this year, it buys you time to draft a quarterback because you can start Russell Wilson for however long works this season. And then you get, let's say it is Shedeur Sanders, you get a couple games out of Shedeur, you go to ownership and say, look, like we started something, let us see it through. Maybe it buys you a year, maybe it buys you 2 years. I think they're going to be in job preservation mode. We saw what happened for the Bears a couple of years ago when they weren't, the staff wasn't thinking long-term, but they were thinking more about how do we save our jobs for right now and get through another season. And that's why they traded up from 21 to 10 to go get Justin Fields. So could there be a situation where another team, maybe not a trade as stark as that? Maybe it is the Pittsburgh Steelers moving up from 21 to wherever they feel they would need to if the run starts happening. If they see two quarterbacks go, they know New Orleans might get one, but they also feel like, maybe they don't want Jalen Milroe, whoever else would be like end of first round. That's what I think wild means. But I think for the Bears in the position that they're in right now, like they're going to hope that quarterbacks go early and often because right now it feels like the draft starts at 5 with Jacksonville because they're apparently the wild card in all of this. And whether they take Ashton Jeanty ahead of the Las Vegas Raiders and what does that do to the rest of the top 10 draft order, whether they, go completely different direction, offensive line, wide receiver, like new head coach, new front office with a new general manager who's young and has never led a draft like this before. It's going to be really interesting to see if they dictate how the next couple picks go and if that affects the Bears.
One thing I did think was interesting was when Ian Cunningham said that their draft board is kind of in lockstep here with what the coaches have wanted. And we knew, right, coming in, new coaching staff, they've already started their draft process. So it was, are you going to have to adjust there? I thought it was interesting to hear that the players they were looking at already were some of the ones that Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen wanted to add to this team, and that transition made things just a little bit easier. To me, I do wonder, though, is that name at the top of those draft boards? And we heard these comments from Ian Cunningham today. Is that Ashton Jeanty? When we talk about BPA, when we talk about going out there and getting an impact piece, he was asked about, how do you weigh BPA or impact player versus positional value? And he said, listen, if he's a playmaker and he's there, I think you take the playmaker. And I don't think there's much more of a playmaker in this draft, possibly in the Bears range, than Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah, and it makes sense given what they've talked about, premium positions versus non-premium position. And of course, there's like not a concern by any stretch, but Ashton Jeanty, led college football in rushing attempts the last 2 seasons, led college football in rushing. He has a lot of mileage already. So it's like thinking about the long-term viability of that position. Of course, you're when you draft somebody, especially with the top 10 pick, you're forecasting it out. What is this player going to bring over the length of his rookie contract? But if they feel that this offense is a running back away from being really good, and if he's there, using that logic, how could you not draft him, right? Like that means you don't have to trade up to go get him if he's there. And what Adam Schefter had reported is that there are a lot of teams that believe the Bears really want him to be there at 10.
I think he said they're praying that he's there at 10. Yeah.
What the only thing that and that's fine. Like I get all that. Like, and I respect that would be their mindset. What's curious to me though, and like what's actually interesting about any of that, is there a spot where they think the range is worth the price to move up to get him? I think that has to be 6 to get in front of the Las Vegas Raiders. So then you're moving up to 5 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah. That's not going to be the same price as it was 2 years ago now to move back one spot to then which again now looks like they vastly shortchanged themselves
But a
in
Jalen
not
Carter
getting
move
Jalen
there,
Carter for getting a 4th round pick and all of that. How much would it cost to move into the top 5? I think that's going to be really expensive, but if you feel that this guy is the ultimate game changer for your offense, and if you feel like you can address the other needs, offensive line, pass rusher, tight end, safety, all the things that they need to have depth-wise, then maybe you can justify it. Maybe Ryan Poles is the one making those calls that he talked about, the phones ringing and all the movement that he expects to happen.
The one thing I do wonder, too, is that an indication that they believe that the offensive linemen that we could take at 10 that are probably still available, the defensive linemen that we could take at 10 that probably are still available, I can get that guy in the 2nd round. We got 2 second-round picks here. Remember Ryan Poles talking about, Ian Cunningham talking about there's your blue chip pieces, and there's a few of those guys. It's not a big pool, but then you've got like these clumps of players that are, okay, this guy is rated here, and he's got the same grade all the way as this guy down here. I do wonder if you're going early in this draft with a Ashton Jeanty, right? We know they're going to address something in the trenches. Is that an indication that Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham look at this draft and the scouts look at this draft and they go, we like a guy like Kelvin Banks Jr., but we also love Ariante Ursary.
Sure.
And we can get that same value there.
And I think that speaks to how they feel about the left tackle position right now. Like what Cunningham said, that Braxton Jones is going to come back fully healthy. He made that declaration today. Obviously, they're in the building now. Karan Amagaji's here too. You can combine a couple things that Ryan Poles has said previously about the left tackle spot and having a surplus at specific positions, and that you don't mind doing it at premium positions because it helps you in the short term with competition and also helps you in the long term with a long-term option potentially. Does that guy need to be a 1st round pick? If they, let's say in the scenario you're talking about, they go get Ashton Jeanty, whether trading up, whether he falls to them, whatever. No, that's not the worst case scenario to like pass on a 1st round offensive lineman. If there's somebody you think this guy's a year or two, like it'll be year 2 before he starts, or it would be in line to start, then that could be your pick at 39 or 41. Like they've got those 2 picks that are sandwiched right there in the top of the 2nd round that put them in a really good position to handle whatever they don't do in day 1. And if their long-term thinking is Braxton Jones is our best starter at left tackle right now when healthy, then you wouldn't necessarily need to move off of that. And that would be them saying, we feel that the adjustments we've made to the offensive line, flipping the interior, Darnell Wright's going into year 3, Braxton Jones is a solid starter for them, that's enough to help Caleb Williams in year 2, that they don't feel they need to overhaul one more position, that they can get by at least for a year and then worry about that position the following year.
Yeah. And I will say this, right? I know I've been I don't want a running back in the 1st round. I take your running backs late, right? Could have had Buck and Irving. But if you get an Ashton Jeanty, the impact that he would make on this team, I do think would be immediate because, and I don't know if you can say that about just about every running back in the draft, because last year Ashton Jeanty dealt with basically 8 or 9 in the box every single play because no matter what, the game plan was turn around and give this football to Ashton. He still led not only FBS and carries, but also was the leading rusher in college football last season, right? Like he had all of the touchdowns, all of the accolades you need to see. And he was doing that while everybody on the other side of the team, I don't care if they're accountants, right? If they're future sports trainers and whatever it is, everyone on the other side of the field is watching you and you were still able to make that impact. I think if the Bears got him, right, if he fell to them, it would be a piece that we would look at and go, okay, this guy's clearly an impact piece. The big question is not, can he make a play on the field? It's, okay, is this a long-term piece, which I think spoke to the conversation about where do you view that value, a 10-year starter at that 1st round pick, or we've seen how that running back position can go. You can get 2 contracts out of it, or by the time the 2nd contract shows up, we could be looking at it and going, that was fun. Let's do it again.
Yeah. And I mean, that's where this thing is trending, because obviously when you use a top 10 pick on a player, that's supposed to be a franchise guy who's here for the long haul. We know the value of the running back position has changed the last couple of years. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles, just gave Saquon Barkley another contract within the same within the same year that they gave him the first one, because they did it before the start of the new league year, which is so unprecedented. But will other teams follow suit with that? Is that where we're starting to see the league go? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he's the outlier to all of it. But I just sometimes look at the league and think that there is this idea that you've got to plan for the future, but you're trying to win now, regardless of whether you're where the Bears were a couple of years ago or a team that does feel like you're a piece away. You're not guaranteed to see the long-term thing through. So if somebody can help you in the shorter term, which could mean 2 years, 3 years, maybe not necessarily year one, but if they bring in Ashton Jeanty, my God, he's going to be a year one guy. Like that's what that tells you. If they can get somebody like that in here, even if it's Tyler Warren at top 10. Because I think if you're going to spend a top 10 pick on a tight end, you better be somebody that you anticipate immediate impact, Brock Bauer style. And I mean, I don't know. You go back through the last couple of years. Trey McBride was a third round pick. I think was not a first round pick. Sam Laporta was a second round pick. Yeah. You can find those guys elsewhere, but if you really think that somebody is an immediate impact player, can help you right away, if your offense is ready to compete, and everything we keep hearing from them in this building is that, yeah, we're ready. We're finally ready. Roster's in a good spot. Quarterback's ready to take the jump. Then I don't think you can fault them for the investment that they would make if it's not in one of those like premium left tackle edge rusher positions. And if it is, in what's being considered a non-premium position like running back.
Yeah, and I wonder, listen, that mindset, I wonder if that is why you would want an Ashton Jeanty, right? Listen, if you feel the Philadelphia Eagles felt they were there. Mm-hmm. They felt that we got it. We've got the team.
And it was the right gamble.
We're a running back away. And it was the right gamble. Saquon Barkley helps them run to a Super Bowl. There's a lot from the offensive line there, but we got the offensive line. We've got the defensive line. We got the linebackers. We've got the DBs. We just added another DB in the draft. We've got everything we need. We just need a dominant running back. It's the right mindset to go with. Is that a place where the Bears should be right now is really the question that I think a lot of Bears fans have leaving last season, where if we're in a Philadelphia situation where we've been to the playoffs, we've won games, we maybe have fallen short and didn't get to the Super Bowl, but you've been competitive the entire time. I think I could be more, just go get you are that piece away. And it's not that you're only adding Ashton Jeanty, but that is, right, the piece that you are saying this is going to help us get to a Super Bowl eventually, and we need that this year to help us compete.
It could also be that they view the NFC North, like just starting on a more micro level, as, oh my God, this division is so tough. We have to, we can't afford to be a piece that we can't afford to have a void at a piece that we could address that could actually make us competitive in our own division first. Because I'm with you. I don't think they're any player away right now from going to go win a Super Bowl. Like, how about you go win your division? How about you be a wild card team first and foremost? Like, can we lower the bar a little bit from the absurd expectation that this team is a player away from doing anything? Yeah. Like, it's been 3 years of this now, going into the fourth season under Ryan Poles. After 2 years where you finally get the roster right and you think you're ready to compete last year and then you fall on your face, you've got to be realistic about how ready and where you're ready to compete. I think being ready to compete for a wild card spot is a solid place for them to be in a respectable place for them to be in, given Detroit is still the best team in this division. Minnesota should be really good this year. Green Bay, to me, is kind of a wild card, not in the sense of a playoff team, but just a who knows. Yeah. Jordan Love kind of had some regression last year. I think the Bears and the way that they view this and knowing, look, they're starting to pay their own players. That's when you know your roster's in a better state. And we heard from Ryan Poles today on the extension for TJ Edwards and how he views that that's going to help other guys who come in the building and say, hey, if I was undrafted, I could do this too. Kyler Gordon, Joe Tooney extension apparently coming up here, which he said is a priority. That tells me the roster's in a much better place to, if they do make that move, whatever it is, running back, tight end, whatever, to fill a void or perceived void right now on the roster, or to add a piece that's complementary, which I think both of them would be. One maybe more than others, but that tells you that they feel like they can actually go win games next year and meet the expectations of fans and, of reasonable expectations that they could be a good team.
Does this come down to then? Because I think the thing is, right, it's not the media putting these expectations on the Bears.
They're the ones out here talking about it all the time. Saying, we expect to win. Tremaine Edmonds 2 or 3 weeks ago now, when he's no, we expect to win this year. And he said that was Ben Johnson's message the first day the team got together. That's them.
My favorite thing.
They have no one to blame for if they lose this season, if they fail to meet expectations, it's their own. Yeah. They weren't saying the exact same thing the last couple of years, and I understand that they can't say, hey, we are in a full-on rebuild, because no team really says that. They'll say things like trust the process. They'll say things that lead you as a fan to say, all right,
I've
got to be patient.
Yeah.
They're not being patient now. The way that they're talking about it is like all gas, no brakes mentality. That's not a team that's ready to like sit this one out or like be on the sideline, maybe 1 foot in, 1 foot out in the hunt, whatever the graphic we're going to see in November after games. They expect to be contending for something this year. Like there's going to be different degrees of contention, but I think that's how like all the draft rhetoric around the Bears and how they are the team that's the biggest mystery here. Whichever route they go, obviously depends on how the draft board falls, but if it is going after a premium player, which I think you can throw Ashton Jeanty in there because he's a playmaker, he makes your offense better, he helps your quarterback, that should point to the direction that the team's going in or solidify it even further.
Yeah, and by the way, for that in the hunt graphic, if we could be at the top,
you can't put it after an embarrassing loss the way that they did after the San Francisco game. That was the first time they threw them up there last season. They get their ass kicked on the road, and then it's like, oh, they're in the hunt. They're not.
No, we got to put it out there because we said before the draft last year, the goal is just see the Bears on the in the hunt graphic. They made it. I want to be at the top of it. I'm putting it out there now. Put us at the top of it. Let's win enough games to be there because we got to start. You got to be specific with your prayers, Courtney. That's what it comes down to. We got what we asked for.
Yeah,
we just were at the bottom of it with a 4-6 record and absolutely getting our heads kicked in every week. I do think, and I think this is going to be interesting to see kind of how the draft all plays out. The Jeanty conversation may not even be one that
they get to have.
You get to have, right? Because it is, and how Ryan Poles sounded today, I don't know how you heard it, but when asked about trading up, he kind of just was like, yeah, I get it. It's an option. That's kind of how it felt to me. He's not
never
going to
reveal
anything.
That stuff. I mean, even last year when they were talking about taking Caleb Williams #1 overall, I went back and looked at the line of questioning. A lot of it was, why, the only thing that that's the out of any of these that I've covered, that was the most eye-opening one because there was a question about why did you only have one quarterback in here? Why did you only really do homework on one quarterback? Yeah. And of course they knew they were taking Caleb the whole time. But you never typically get any sort of real answers about trading up's a possibility. Yeah, trading down's a possibility.
Yeah.
I want to know what worst case scenario is for the Bears. I think worst case scenario in this draft.
Shamar Stewart. That was disrespectful. I'm sorry. Not really. You're not good.
I actually don't hate it. I would not hate it.
10? Shamar Stewart at 10?
You're drafting on projection with these defensive linemen that are not named Abdul Carter. That would be one where you bring it up. I think it would be worst case scenario if they go up and draft Abdul Carter. I think he may be the best player in the draft.
Yeah.
That is not where I think they should be spending their future draft capital to go get him when they've already made investments there. You can find that depth later on, like Shamar Stewart or somebody else, because this is a draft class of defensive ends, really of all pass rushers, tackles too. That the depth is there. The surefire starter, Hall of Fame, whatever. There's Mason Graham, who's the best of the defensive tackles, Abdul Carter, best of the edge rushers. Everybody else beyond that, I think you could justify if you're drafting them top 10 based on projection. But I that when I think about worst case scenario, I think that would be a complete knee jerk reaction sort of move. Not that there's any sort of buzz about that, but I try to go into these things thinking, what would really make our heads spin if something like that happened? Obviously, Ian Cunningham said they're not taking a quarterback.
We do have that on good authority. They're not going to take a QB.
I don't think it's ever I really do believe this. I don't think you're ever at fault if you take a quarterback in the 7th round or 6th. You should always draft a quarterback. But he said they're not going to. So let's see if they stay true to that.
What's old boy? I just watched. I've been watching our quarterback breakdown from Memphis. He's been there 5 years. He's just smart. He knows football. He was just on with Gruden. I can't think of Memphis's quarterback. But I literally saw him and I was like, if the Giants pass on Shedeur Sanders, they should absolutely take him in the 5th round. Seth Hennigan.
Okay.
He knows ball. He's been in a system for 5 years. It's a pro style system.
Yeah, but a quarterback like that doesn't save jobs. Tyler Shuck could.
Doesn't save a job. That is true. Doesn't save a job.
First round to do that. But Ryan Poles, I don't know if you could really glean, which way are they leaning? Are they trying to move back? Because I think it's really going to depend. Where does the run start? If there's 3 offensive tackles gone, if it's Will Campbell, Armand Membo, and Kelvin Banks, or even I saw some draft today, which I was shocked by this. You want to talk about an overdraft, taking Josh Simmons at 10? I know he doesn't need to start right now, but like there's the injury concern. There's other tackles who, most teams have higher than him. That one would surprise me, but I think that they've got to wait to see, is there a run on a specific position, one that they need? Left tackle. Yes. Does that start? Okay, then you're starting to think, all right, is Jeanty going to get pushed to us? If he doesn't, then you're SOL because the top 3 are gone. If you really don't think you need to spend a top 10 pick on a tight end, which I think they could justify doing, then you're trying to move back. And if you can't, like, I don't think it's the worst case scenario if they stay there. I just think if they got like greedy and tried to think, oh, like we need to move up to 2 to go get Abdul Carter, and that's that would be like the worst case scenario.
Because you're giving up the capital. But I think here's the thing, right? It's worst case scenario in a world that it doesn't work. If Abdul Carter is in fact Micah Parsons 1.5, I can't give him 2.0. Micah Parsons is pretty good. But if he is that guy, we never go back and look at the draft capital that is spent on picks that work. You know what I mean? And I think that's a lot of times where I would be fine with like the Josh Simmons mock draft. Overdraft. It is high. If Josh Simmons is healthy, is he the best left tackle in this draft? He's the one that fits the measurables and all of that stuff.
He also had an injury in October, and everybody's like, oh, it'll be fine. He'll be ready for camp. Like, that seems a little soon.
See. And the Bears were in a position where you could kind of stash him away.
Sure.
I think what's tough about that is the conversation that will pop up in our minds and most Bears fans' minds is, well, why didn't you pick him 10? He probably slides all the way down the board.
Yeah.
And you could have traded back in to possibly go get him. But even with all of that, if Josh Simmons becomes your 10-year left tackle, none of us are sitting here going, I can't believe we took him at 10. Like
it's a big gamble. It
is a huge gamble, though.
And I don't know how much, like, really, with this front office, like they've made some big gambles before. Have some of them worked out? Sure. Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, first round like gambles that they've made. Obviously, Darnell Wright seems like it's projecting well. You did pass up on Jalen Carter
passed for that. Passed up on Jalen Carter, passed up on Jared Verse.
And so there's those things you factor in too. Yeah, could it end up being great? Sure. But what about the players that you passed up in the meantime?
Yeah.
I mean, there's teams still in 2014 that are like, why did we pass up on Aaron Donald? Yeah, he was a little undersized, but it's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yeah. And
probably the greatest player from the interior position in football history with his size. I think that I brought this up a couple of times. I think that conversation screams to, if you are the Bears and you do feel like you're a player away, does that mean go get your guy? Because the Bears in that draft, famously, we got a good player. You got Kyle Fuller, good player. There's no doubt about it. He was a good DB. I think he made a Pro Bowl there in his time there. Had a bunch of interceptions when he was on the Bears. When you added Khalil Mack, he was a good player. Aaron Donald will go down as one of the greatest players of all time. If you feel that Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, I guess if I'm going to say Ashton Jeanty, he better finish right below Walter Payton. But I guess Ashton Jeanty, right? If you feel that they are that guy, like, this is not just blue chip. This is generational blue chip. I don't think there's a situation in my mind, just like you just said, right? The 14 teams that let Aaron Donald get by because he was small. You look back at that and go, wow, that was incredibly stupid. I think if you have a chance to go get someone and you feel that they are that level of player, it is looked at as incredibly stupid that you allowed yourself to be scared in that moment because of the future of your team, where you could have gotten not only a Hall of Famer, but a generational piece.
But, as it pertains to the Bears, I know we keep throwing around this Abdul Carter scenario, going from 10 to 2 potentially.
Well, that's a different conversation. That's a long way.
That's a
more
really
so
long
Mason
way.
Graham, or if Ashton Jeanty is there, right? I think those are pieces that we're also talking about in that. Abdul Carter's in his own world, and then it's
but Jeanty,
guys.
I mean, hell, like if you have to get to 5, that's going to be really expensive.
Yeah.
And so that's something that they're going to have to weigh. And I truly, the phones may be ringing now. They won't be able to make that move until draft night.
100%.
Until anybody's on the board, till they see, hey, is Will Campbell going? Did he go at 4? Because the Patriots could go a couple different routes. We think they're going offensive line, but hell, what if they take Ashton Jeanty at 4? Yeah. What if they're viewing it the same way, that this guy is a prospect for the now and for later? Like, and then all of a sudden, like, the run starts. Are you thinking, crap, can we try to like move out? Is there a team that wants to move up for a quarterback? Like, are you getting desperate at that point if you're the Bears to try to get some more draft capital and move back to a place where you don't feel you're overdrafting? just with the depth of this group, I don't feel like there's going to be as many guys we consider overdrafts, like especially in like the 10 to 20 range than maybe in previous years.
Yeah, it's going to be how Ryan Poles said it. It's going to be wild, and I think that is this first round, day one, is going to be just filled with surprises. Like, I don't expect everything to go just as we planned. Maybe it will. I think last year did, for the most part. It goes
chalk, because like there's just this weird cloud hanging over this draft.
I thought it was so interesting, and I get it, right? Like, they're never going to tell you anything, but I thought it was interesting that Ian Cunningham was like, we don't have a feel on this. I was like, we're 4 days away. You don't have a feel on how the board is going to fall?
I think that's just lip service. I do not buy that for a second. They've gone through countless mock scenarios. Yeah. They've gone through every other team's biggest needs and ranked them. They have, they have a lot of hands here, a lot of hands on deck, whether it's on the college side, on the pro side, working internally. People are coming into the building, they bring their college scouts in. They absolutely have a feel.
Well, I think know the players, right? You have a feeling, but like, can you trust, like, stuff popped up late, right? Can you trust that the Saints don't go quarterback? Can you trust that what is Jacksonville going to do? I mean, that's the one team that, like you said,
scenario for every situation. Like, do
100%.
The Saints take a quarterback? Do they not? What does that do to you at 10? Is that a place where somebody might be calling if they see that, and let's say a quarterback doesn't get taken to New Orleans, going from the Bears all the way to the Steelers? Are they like, is Pittsburgh thinking, no, this is cake? Like, nobody's going to be taking a quarterback here. Like, we can sit pretty and patient. And then the Bears are in a spot where they can't trade out even more. So I don't know. Like, I think they absolutely have a feel for it. I think they also know that it's different to be like 5, 6, 7, or 8. Like 10. At the bottom of the top 10 is a no man's land, at least with this draft class, because the depth outweighs the premium players, like the blue chip guys that are available.
Dream scenario: Pittsburgh moves up a long way. And we
from 21 to 10.
From 21 to 10. That's dream scenario. Because I think that's, if the quarterback falls, can they afford to risk waiting? Not a lot of people there, so maybe.
Unless there was a team that already went in the top 10 that like wants to trade back in.
And that's where I think maybe you get a little nervous there, because I think the Giants do want Shedeur. I just don't know if the Giants want Shedeur 3.
That's fair.
And if they can go get somebody else, I could trade
maybe they
back
want Tyler Shuck. Like,
maybe they want Tyler Shuck. There's a lot of buzz around Tyler Shuck. Let's finish it out here, Courtney, because we did hear something about the Joe Thuney contract extension. Ryan Poles saying that it's a priority for the Chicago Bears, which I think most of us knew. Like, you didn't trade for him to not sign him, but
he can't also tip his hand, because if he said, "Yeah, we'll see," that makes you think, "Oh, they're trying to find somebody in the draft that could be a long-term option there." He played it perfectly. It's a priority, but they've got to see what happens in the draft first, because if there is an offensive lineman that they get, and depending upon where this person's ceiling is, Joe Thuney's 32 years old. I personally still think that they pay him. I don't think that they've made some of these trades before. Like, obviously different position, but Keenan Allen last year, they traded for him not to pay him.
Yeah. Chase Claypool.
Well, yeah, that was a bust.
That was a miss, but you traded for him, and
for sure,
it was a wait and see approach.
For sure. They've taken that before. They've been comfortable doing that. Yeah. I still think he gets paid, but I do think it all depends on who they end up drafting on the offensive line. If it is somebody that might have been tackle in college, who better projects as a guard because of the size in the NFL, maybe you're not thinking about it as a long-term deal. Maybe it's a year extension. Maybe it's 2 years on the shorter side. He is 32, but like, he's also been the best guard in football the last 2 years and coming off 2 all-pro seasons. So, but I'm sure that gave, because I've been asked that question a lot. Like, what do the Bears think about this? Like, for Ryan Poles to put that on record saying it's a priority. Okay, now it's there. Yeah. If it's not they weren't really saying that about, like, and I know I keep saying Keenan Allen, but that was the last example of it. They never said, hey, it's a priority to get something done. It's like, we're going to talk throughout the offseason. It was never, we have to get this done. It's a priority. Using those words, you think, okay, they are serious about that, because everybody they said is a priority, they've gotten done so far.
Could this be a positional value situation where you bring in Thuney, you've traded for him, and listen, I'm here to play left guard, but I can play left tackle. If you draft a young left guard and want to put me at left tackle, that's going to cost you more.
Well, hell, I mean, he did it in the Super Bowl last year.
He didn't do it well, though.
But
I would rather have him at left guard.
Yeah, I'm sure he wants to stay at left guard too.
He didn't do it very well.
Like,
let's be real.
He's got a lot of positional flexibility.
100%.
I think I don't think the Bears would be looking at it from that perspective. And I think, Braxton Jones is probably your best bet at left tackle right now.
Yeah.
Assuming he can be healthy. But I think they've got to be thinking about the future of the interior too, and that position specifically, because he is your elder statesman along the offensive line, that you got to see how they get through draft weekend to know when that extension is going to happen.
Yeah.
And what the long-term plan is for that interior, that left guard spot.
I think there's going to be a lot of questions answered from this draft on, the Tooney conversation. I would assume we have something before training camp. You don't want him to go into camp without a contract deal. But I do think, and I agree with you on this, it's good to hear that it is a priority, because I was getting to the point where I was like, is this another Keenan Allen situation? Like, I'm checking the draft comp for what if he doesn't re-sign here, right? I'm like, is this a situation where, not that you don't want him to be here, but you do look at it and say, well, we got your replacement coming, but we need you for this season, which is kind of what you did with Keenan Allen. You got Keenan Allen, and then you drafted Rome Odunze, who you knew you wanted to be the number 2, probably number 1 eventually.
Yeah, and that's a great thought, because thinking back to draft night last year, that thought does go in people's minds of, okay, they just brought in Keenan Allen, but they got a receiver top 10. They're not going to have to keep Keenan Allen around beyond a year if it doesn't work out. And obviously the injuries, the age, those things factor into, I think, a reason as to why he's not here. But they also have his replacement. Now, if top 10, I can't see a scenario right now, because there's really no guard that stands out. Like, if you're drafting an offensive lineman top 10, that's your left tackle. That's your Braxton Jones of the future.
Yeah. And
it's not a Joe Tooney, but maybe there is somebody that pops up day 2 that you're like, okay, maybe not now. Of course not now. I'll correct myself on that. And because you just brought in Joe Tooney, but maybe 2 years from now, this guy's looking to replace Tooney. So it's a short, it affects your thinking on how you would do that extension.
I wonder about even at 10, and I've said this a couple of times, Armand Membo to me, I think, is the best tackle in the draft overall. Problem is he plays on the right side. We heard Ryan Poles today talk about, listen, the flexibility of Darnell Wright is why we wanted him here. He can play the right side and the left side. Although I don't think he played a lot of left tackle.
He didn't. And is he capable of doing it? Sure. They cross-train these guys for a reason if there's injury. But the Bears at least have maintained, outside of early on when they were just trying to field a roster, they don't want to move guys out of position unless they have to.
Yeah.
They went through that whole song and dance with Tevin Jenkins. They went through that with Lucas Patrick. They none of those worked. None of it worked. Yeah. And honestly, when I hold Ryan Poles' feet to the fire on what he said about Jonah Jackson. I know it was a very limited sample size, but everybody, him, Ben Johnson, have all said, yeah, he was playing out of position last year. And he wasn't good.
Yeah.
If you have that energy about one player, you should have that about everybody on the offensive line. Yes, all these guys are versatile. They do a lot of things. But Darnell Wright is at his best playing right tackle.
100%.
Right tackles are important in the NFL just as much as left tackles. You're not consistently seeing anymore where it's oh my God, left tackle is the cream of the crop. Whenever your right tackle gets proficient enough, you move him over there. Go look at Minnesota. They made Brian O'Neill the highest paid right tackle in the NFL for a reason. He's really good on the right side. I don't think you mess with that chemistry if you don't have to. And, that's why I've always, with the Membo conversation, I know it's kind of a moot point now because it doesn't feel like he's even going to get to the Bears. I've always kind of been out on that one. I'm sure he can play left tackle, but can you play it the best can
you play it at the same level that you play it?
Yeah, of course.
The only conversation on left tackle that I always have is, and I like Membo, is his floor at left tackle Braxton Jones' ceiling. Because it does feel like we've hit that ceiling. Sure. And I think that's the question.
He's still a better starter right now than probably anybody in the draft.
100%. But it is that, okay, as we're I don't know, I'd take Will Campbell over Braxton Jones.
I don't know. Rookie left I'm always of the belief that a rookie left tackle is going to find time to struggle. Like Braxton Jones did when he was starting. Yeah, he was a 5th round pick, not a 1st round pick, but he's got the experience factor. He's been in a weight program for 3 years. I think it's a safe, if he can come back healthy, it's a safe bet for them right now to stick with him at left tackle and to worry about if you can find the replacement based on how the board falls, then that's not the worst. I think it's a really good thing that if they were to go draft his potential replacement.
And I believe that Braxton Jones is going to actually improve because of Joe Tooney being next to him, because of how listen, we have heard too many wide receivers say, you got to be efficient in blocking, for me to not believe that we're going to be running the football so much this season. There's going to be so much that plays to Braxton Jones' strengths and help him on the inside. I do think that Braxton, when he comes back healthy, is going to be fine. And I'm glad we heard Ian Cunningham say that we expect him to come back healthy.
Yeah.
Because all we've kept hearing is, we'll see, we got to see what's going on with Braxton. I thought he got shot. Like we were at a point where I was like, is he, it's a broken ankle, right? Like,
but
he'll be back.
They did say it'd be limited. Like, I think Ben
Early
Johnson
on,
tried to like couch that with, it was, March or late March, early April when he said that. And no, he's not going to be doing much during OTAs.
Yeah.
But like, how limited will you be in training camp? Because you have a month and a half at that point to get ready for the season. That's a pretty important position. Are you going to have somebody that pushes Karan Amagaji for playing time, or is Braxton Jones, like, when does he fit in? I think that's still like the big unknown, but
yeah.
It was more of a declaration from Ian Cunningham today that he will be healthy coming back.
Yeah. And that's good to hear, because literally every draft, I mean, we talked to so many draft analysts, like, it was really a question of how healthy Braxton's going to be. I was like, did his leg fall off? Like, it's a broken ankle.
I still think it's a big if. Like, I mean, obviously recovering from an injury like that.
The last couple of years also.
He's had issues like here and there, but I mean, by and large, he started a lot of games and been pretty durable throughout most of that, except for, getting hurt because his ankle got rolled up on last December. But, I don't anticipate that being like, just the way that they're making it sound doesn't sound like it's going to be something that, they're saying is going to like hold him back that much.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's going to be good to see. Going to be exciting to see at 10. If you had to make a gut pick, or is there a trade up, trade down, either scenario, what are the Bears doing?
So we had our mock draft for our NFL Nation group, which airs like we do like an NFL Live special. And so I think this would be like option C for the Bears if they were to have this happen in real time. Jeanty was gone at 6 to the Raiders. All 3 tackles were off the board. So Tyler Warren's sitting there. We couldn't do any trade backs, mind you, in ours. So I took Tyler Warren in ours. I still am a little drafting a tight end top 10. That guy better be a dog. I keep saying that because I'm like, I just don't see Brock Bowers. But
he's got to be Trey, Brock, or Laporta.
Yeah,
and like that's what you got to be.
And could he be in this offense what Sam Laporta was to Detroit? That's the best case for the Bears. So that's who I took. If it fell, though, anyway, like, if they could get Ashton Jeanty or an offensive tackle, like a left tackle, I think they do that.
Yeah.
That's that's them walking away from round 1 saying, we did it. We had a great draft.
It's going to be fun to see. I can't wait for this Thursday night. I'll be at a draft party. You'll be up in Green.
I'll be here.
Are you here? Oh,
you're here all weekend.
Oh, all right. Well, at least you don't got to be in. Never mind. That was going to be. No, I said at least you don't got to be in Green Bay. The Chicago Bears podcast. We were doing a draft party out in Homewood at VIP Bar and Grill. So pull up on us, man. It's going to be a fun time. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. As always, for Courtney Cronin, it's your boy Pat the Designer, back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down, one love. Ryan, you got it, man. Get it right. Peace.